After the kitchen knife, the most commonly used equipment in any Indian kitchen in my eyes is the mixer grinder. Hey guys, Nikhil here from Home Banao. This is a detailed video review of the Atomberg Zenova Mixer Grinder. At least as far as I can tell, India's first BLDC motor mixer grinder. In my eyes, they've set the benchmark in the mixer grinder industry. And stay tuned throughout the whole video where we are going to do comparisons with traditional mixer grinders and choppers. We are going to do tests. We're going to tell you pros and cons. And we're going to tell you at the end what our recommendation is. Stay tuned. Now in the whole video, we have given detailed chapters. The first section, I just want to touch upon Atomberg specifically. So if you want to skip to a later on section, you just select the correct section so that you don't have to listen to it if you're not interested in knowing about the brand. Before I say anything, this is not a sponsored video. Let's start with about Atomberg. Now Atomberg specifically started off with BLDC motor fans. They've captured a good market share. When you search for BLDC fans on Amazon, Flipkart, they're one of the top recommendations. And one of the key ideas is with BLDC motors, Atomberg has unlocked a lot of advantages for any consumers in different appliances. Again, with BLDC, the technology itself, brushless direct current motor, they have unlocked a lot of advantages which they have passed on to the customer by making a lot of incredible design decisions. So let's start with the design first. Now, first thing you'll notice, it's a very sleek package. Overall, the whole base unit which contains the motor, with a brushless BLDC motor fan, there is no magnets as such. The magnetism which causes the rotation happens because of copper coils. So it's a purely electrical process which is generating the magnetism, which makes it a lot more efficient. There's no friction as such. And I'll put up some schematic diagrams of how these two different motors work. But this underlying technology which Atomberg has mastered in fans, by bringing them into mixer grinders, it unlocks a lot of advantages. What advantages? First thing is the ventless design which they have done. This does not require active cooling. I can assure you every single manufacturer which makes mixer grinders knows that vents are an unavoidable circumstance of the older technology. Meaning for the motor to keep cool, they will have to give vents because the older technology, which has permanent magnets, which has a lot more moving parts, they end up heating up. Most manufacturers, if you see, they will have issues of motor burnouts. They will have issues of a cutoff time wherein above this time the motor will not continue to spin. And that is primarily because of heat. With this, in my opinion, this 400 watt mixer grinder, by having a ventless design, it's a very bold take that, hey, our motors are so good, they do not require cooling. And by making it ventless in traditional mixer grinders, one major issue is through those vents, dust ends up getting into your motor system, into your circuitry, and that ends up creating more failure points. So the ventless design in itself, I think, is a big step forward in the mixer grinder space. It's going to increase the longevity. Overall, looks great. And by having no vents, there's no question of water or any other food items leaking into the internal motor or circuitry. So this is the first design decision which I think they've made, which is absolutely like it's a home run. It unlocks so many other advantages from a safety perspective, from a reliability perspective, that this sets up a great foundation. The base sets up a great foundation for the overall design. So the next design decision which I really appreciate is these clip-on lids. I'm sure even if a lot of mixer grinders which exist in the market today, they claim that you just keep the lid and you can turn it on, you will end up always having spillages and leakage. That's why you will see most Indian kitchens, they'll keep the lid on, they'll have a piece of cloth, they'll keep the hand on that piece of cloth, and they will then start grinding, right? It's an involved manual process. In this case, they've given these, as far as I can tell, very strong clips and a very thick washer. So a combination of these two things essentially allows a hands-free operation. So I place my lid, I lock it, and it's locked in 4 places. It's incredibly secure. And then I turn on the mixer grinder. This allows me to have a hands-free operation. I will show you some examples of us blending without me touching the mixer grinder in any way. And I think this is quite good because the leakage, my own brother, for instance, the first time he used mixer grinder, he didn't realize that he had to keep this on top, and then the lid flew off and it created a mess everywhere. By having a locking mechanism like this, even for experienced folks, they're able to turn on the mixer grinder, go focus on some other task and not worry about leakages. So this was a second design decision. Whoever the design team is, I think they've really thought this specific aspect through. The next part from a design decision perspective is the dial here to change the speeds. Normally speaking, you will have a lot of mixer grinders where they'll have 1, 2, 3 and they'll have a pulse mode. In this one, they have something called as the coarse mode, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the video. But they also have a pulse mode in a very clever way. You just push the button in, right? And it triggers the grinder. And I think that's a very good implementation of the pulse technology. You just need a pulse to quickly mix something which has got mixed. The last part is the overall compact nature of this machine. Again, the advantage they end up getting with the BLDC motor is the motor size is quite small. I'll see if I can put up a comparison of similar wattage motors and BLDC and the traditional motors. And that has been pushed to a very compact design. So this allows you to just keep it in one of the corners in your kitchens. I'm sure the countertops in kitchens in most Indian homes are quite crowded. And the last design element which I really appreciate. So I'll try to take this mixer grinder off the table. So just observe how hard it is. So why is that? It's because of these sort of suction cups. Now I've seen a lot of other mixer grinder companies have suction cups. For whatever reason, this particular one has a very strong suction. I think the weight ratio, the material which they've used, whatever it is, the overall suction design is so solid that it is a completely hands-free experience. It's not moving anywhere. You can see I'm hitting it quite hard. There's absolutely no way it's moving anywhere. So even when I keep one of the mixer grinders, I'm grinding something hard, it still does not budge. It stays fixed on its spot. So now we spoke about design. Let's get into the functionality. Now in the box, the Atomberg mixer grinder comes with 4 jars. One is a 1 liter jar. The other 3, you have a 1.5 liter jar for slightly higher volume juices, gravies and soups. You have a grinder jar, 0.5 liter, and you have a 0.5 liter chopper jar. Let's start with each one of these. So starting with the chopper jar, here's a comparison of the chopper jar from Atomberg versus a typical pull or push choppers which you get on Amazon these days from a lot of different brands. If you notice, the traditional jar which you get on Amazon, various different brands are selling it. I'm taking almost a minute, and you look at the output, it's still not completely chopped. I think I should have pushed for another 2 to 3 minutes to get a fine texture. Whereas on the Atomberg, I've just put it on the coarse mode. Coarse mode is their low power mode, which is what they recommend for grinding and chopping. You can see in just 10 to 12 seconds, it's given a very fine chopped onion pieces. So this is a simple comparison from a chopping perspective. I think after we started using this, no one at home chops onions, doesn't chop cucumbers, which we end up using in raita, anymore on the normal either chopper or with knife. They just throw it in the chopping jar, put it on coarse, in 10-15 seconds the job's done. The next thing, the grinding jar. I'll just give you a demonstration of a simple chutney getting made in the grinding jar. And again, when I'm making this chutney, I'm using the coarse mode. One important thing for you to note here is, I forgot to speak about this in the design section, but every jar has this lid. You saw it when I was making the chutney. I use this lid a lot to monitor what's going on inside, to add some more water if need be, and things like that. This is a simple jar where I don't have to unlock all 4 hooks, open it out, put water, again lock them. No, for small adjustments like adding salt, checking the texture, checking whether the blending is done or not, I just can open this simple tiny lid and then I can close it back. Now, I didn't mention this in the design section for a specific reason. I want to talk about this in the pros and cons section, so pay attention for it towards the end of the video. Now, if you notice, I did the blending of the chutney in the coarse mode in the grinder jar, and the texture of the chutney is absolutely incredible. It comes like this if you would make the chutney on a grinding stone by hand. And who discovered in Atomberg that the coarse mode, which runs at a very low RPM compared to the normal blending or grinding, low RPM is going to be very similar to a silbatti, your grinding stone. It's an incredible discovery because we've tried various different chutneys, and always the texture is something which at least I used to miss when we end up using your typical mixer grinders, where it almost ends up becoming like a paste. Now, this low RPM setting has another advantage, even when you're using the grinding jar or the larger 1 liter or 1.5 liter jar, is at high RPMs when chutneys are cooked. One major issue is, apart from it becoming a paste, the high RPM ends up transmitting a lot of heat to that chutney. That is one of the reasons why some people still, like the mortar pestle, the stone, the grinding stone to prepare some of these chutneys. If you are into Italian cuisines, even pesto sauce which is made there, they prefer to do it on a mortar and pestle because you don't get control when you're using a typical mixer grinder. That control which you get with the coarse mode is something which very closely mimics what you would end up getting in the grinding stone, and that's a very incredible discovery. Next, let's talk about their 1 liter, 1.5 liter jars. So I'm just giving you a demo at the highest speed setting of a vada batter, which is basically we've kept some urad dal in the water for some time, and you can see the texture which I have achieved. So this is the highest setting blend, and you can see it is a very soft and smooth and silky smooth looking batter. This is exactly what you need when you're gonna add some more garnishes to this and you're gonna fry it. A smooth batter like this is what will give you very, very tasty crispy vadas, and this is something we've tested with idlis, dosas. It's worked absolute wonders. Don't go with the spec sheet of 400 watts. We had a 1000 watt Preeti mixer grinder in the past, and I can assure you that this has given me better results with a much lower wattage, probably because of the BLDC motor tech. I've not had any issues with that. If you think 400 watts is too less, you don't go by the number is what I'm saying. Now let's talk about some of the safety features which Atomberg has built into this. I have not seen their detailed spec sheet, guys. I've gone by what I've experienced on a day-to-day basis. You can look at their spec sheet on their website, or I'm sure in any of their marketing material. But some of the safety features I've noticed on a day-to-day basis. So the first one, this has become common in most mixer grinders nowadays. If I try to turn it on without the jar being fixed, it gives me this beep. Let me just show you again. So it's telling you that, hey, there's no jar, and it's not going to turn on automatically. The second thing is when the power is cut off and then it starts back again, I have not noticed, it just starting again and creating havoc or issues. There's that protection which it has for auto cut off. The last one is, till now I have not been able to push it to the extent of it getting this feature, but I've seen some other reviews, like I'm sure you guys have as well, wherein when they turn it on for a very long time, it's able to auto cut off and make sure that there's no damage on the motor. From a safety perspective, that's another feature which they have given. In my eyes, the design decisions of the lock and the suction cups also act as safety features to prevent any injuries. Now let's go into the pros and cons section. So first thing, pros, I spoke about the design decisions. You can go to that segment. Other than that, the BLDC motor, apart from the compact nature, higher power delivery, and higher control, like you can run it at very low wattages at low RPMs, which gives that coarse mode feature. One major advantage it has is it is so quiet at lower speeds. Like, you will not hear anything. The only sound which I hear is the food getting blended inside and the blade noise. In fact, I can give you a demo. I'll turn it on. Okay. I mean, this is running at coarse mode. I'm talking to you, there's no voice suppression done here. This is actually how it sounds. And this is a really cool feature. If you've experienced the traditional motors, they are very loud. To deliver a high rotation, they end up going with higher wattages. The issue is with higher wattages, it gets louder and louder, louder and louder. Apart from that, because it's a compact design, it will fit anywhere. The chopping jar which they have given is a very high quality chopping jar. It's replaced the manual choppers which we've used in the past at our home, and I showed you an example in the chopping section. The overall jars which they have given I think are solid. The next pro is the ventless design. There's no chance of food or water getting into the internal electronics, ensuring that it lasts longer. Now let's get into the cons. So the first con which I feel is most of these jars, they come with this lid, right? This lid few times has not completely come off, but it has got elevated a bit when I'm putting a lot of food inside and when it's grinding at a higher load. I've used certain mixers and blenders wherein this lid also has an internal lock. This is not present here. It's just a friction fit, meaning it stays there because there's nowhere else to go. I believe that this is one place which Atomberg should do. The next thing is the overall cost of the device is high. I bought this for 6,400 rupees from a Jayanagar store. Mukesh uncle, hi. So I'll put his details in the description. You can contact him as well. But overall, it is much higher price than the traditional mixer grinders. Now, that's a very interesting thing because when you look at BLDC motors as a technology, they actually have a lower manufacturing cost. And my assumption is most other manufacturers have not set up the BLDC production lines, which is why Atomberg is probably one of the first manufacturers doing it, and they are recuperating a lot of their R&D costs. This is just my engineering brain talking, but keep that in mind that it is priced higher than most mixer grinders, which come to at about 2,500 to 4,000 price bracket. So it's a 2,000 rupees more, 2,000 to 2,500 rupees more than a typical mixer grinder. Apart from that, a lot of shops in market areas know how to repair the old mixers and grinders if they get spoiled. Atomberg does have a good reputation of service. I have personally faced not issues with this device but with fans, and I've got prompt response from them same day or next day. So that can be considered a con, where I'm not sure for mixer grinders if they have the repair technicians spread across India. I do know that for fans they do have a wide service network, but I'm not sure for mixers and grinders. And your typical repair shops which could repair older mixer grinders will not be able to work on this, is what I understand. The next part is with the BLDC technology, apart from the advantages, a major con which comes in is you need a electronic circuit controller to manage the speeds and things like that. The problem with that controller, that circuit board, is it adds another point of failure. So that circuit board, if it's spoiled, your mixer grinder can't do anything. So it's completely on Atomberg to be able to provide that replacement, repair it, fix it up and things like that. Another con is I could not find on their website or on Amazon replacement jars. I am not sure if it's available. If it is available, please let me know in the comments below. But as far as I could tell, I could not find replacement jars. And I hope that is something which Atomberg prioritizes. And because it's a relatively newer technology, on paper, BLDC motors are a much more efficient and reliable technology. However, this would be the first brand doing this. So you don't know. My previous mixer grinder, for instance, lasted us like 10 years. So I don't know if this will last for 10 years, 20 years. We can only find out by using it. So that's a con. It's not a con per se, it is more of I am not sure how long it will last me. The last con I have is the overall design is a very high gloss design. It's prone to fingerprints. I don't know how long this gloss finish will last. I wish they had given a matte model as well. I would have definitely purchased that. Although it looks incredibly beautiful, I do not like high gloss finishes because they don't tend to last as long as they're supposed to. So let's get into the conclusion. In my eyes, Atomberg has set a benchmark for the mixer grinder industry for what can be achieved at a 6,500, 7,000 rupee price point. They have covered all the bases, and very rarely, there are a few companies of course, but very rarely in the Indian hardware space you come across companies which have made a lot of thoughtful design decisions, not just in terms of look but in terms of functionality. So as an entrepreneur myself, it's really encouraging to see something like this, and as a consumer of the product, this has been a delight to use over the last month and a half. I Would definitely give you a thumbs up if you're looking to buy this device. You can go after this without any hesitation. If your concerns are the 400 watt indicator, if your concerns are the brand, I think on both fronts, the 400 watt, don't look at that number. It delivers same if not higher output than a lot of traditional mixer grinders, and the brand Atomberg itself is one of those startups which is growing incredibly well. I am trying to get in touch with Arindam Paul to do an interview of his, so if you're watching, please comment below. Would love to get in touch with you. And if anyone else has questions about this product, please let me know in the comment section below. Would love to respond to them. We have added affiliate links in the description of the video, not just for this product, but for any other product in this space. And if you're planning to buy this product, please use those affiliate links. It helps support the channel. You will not pay a single penny extra. Thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe to Home Banao for other videos like this. And let us know if you have any specific product you'd like us to cover. See you all in our next video.